All right, now, so like I said, I'm JD. I've only been in St. Pete for a little over a year. Before I lived here, I lived down in Key West, Florida. And if you're familiar with Key West at all, you know that they also refer to themselves as the Conch Republic. And right now, going on right around this time of year, mid-April, every year is considered Conch Republic Days. Now, you may know about that, but you may not be familiar with why they call themselves the Conch Republic, why they call themselves Conchs. And tonight, I'm going to share with you the story they don't want you to know, the truth about the Conch Republic. So first of all, we got to start with why they call themselves Conchs, which goes back to mid-1800s, when Key West was just like a fishing village, basically, mostly inhabited by migrants from Cuba and Haiti and the Dominican Republic, that region of the Caribbean. Some pirates living there as well, and scavengers. But they, and so, you know, of course, there's no electricity or telephones, let alone any kind of social media back then. So whenever somebody in the village had a baby that was happy and healthy, they would take a stick, put it in the yard, and put a conch shell on top of it. And then that let everybody know that they, because they already knew the woman was pregnant. It's a small village. Everybody knew who was pregnant, that the baby had been born and it was healthy, and the mother was healthy and everything was great. And they started referring to those kids as conch babies. And eventually they started referring to themselves as conchs. And that's right. And now that's a term they guard jealously. You have to be born there to be a true conch. So flash forward to 1982, to the founding of the Conch Republic. At this time, 1982, Fidel Castro, El Presidente de Cuba, he decides it would be funny to release all of his prisoners, mostly political prisoners, anti-communist political prisoners, to release them and put them on boats, makeshift crafts, rafts, and send them across the Straits of Florida to the United States, landing in the Florida Keys primarily. And these rafts, when I say makeshift, I mean makeshift. These things are put together out of bamboo, out of used wood, out of all kinds of things. There's a museum of them, of chugs, down in Key West. They call them chugs. My favorite one is at one point over the years, somebody took a pickup truck, sealed the bottom, put an outboard motor on the back, connected it to the steering wheel, and it literally drove across the Florida Straits in a pickup truck with a bunch of people in the back. Anyway, so all these, Marianas boat launch, all these people come, like thousands of people are coming from Cuba into the Florida Keys and heading up north. At the same time, unrelated but simultaneously in history, this is the period where, you know, those of us who are old enough to remember the movie Scarface, there's a lot of cocaine and other contraband coming up from Central and South America into the Florida Keys and then up into Miami. So there's all this contraband, there's all these illegal immigrants coming up through the Keys in South Florida. The federal government has no control over it, isn't getting paid for it. They're very upset about that. So they decide they need to do something, and being the federal government, they do something stupid and cruel that has no effect on their intended target. They blockade US 1, the only road in and out of the Florida Keys, and they begin searching each and every car, not random cars, each and every car for contraband, as well as demanding citizenship proof from every person, which who carries around a driver's license, not citizen proof. You need a birth certificate or a passport. Nobody's got that inside the United States, travels with that. So a huge traffic jam develops, 15 hours long, down the Florida Keys, across multiple bridges, the 7-mile bridge. Imagine being trapped in the middle of the 7-mile bridge for hours because one day the federal government decided to start searching cars. People are furious. Tourists are furious, locals are furious. Mayor Wardlow of Key West, he heads up to Washington, D.C. to go to a hearing that's been scheduled about this. The judge dismisses the case out of hand, basically telling the people of the Florida Keys, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says, shut up and do what you're told. The press comes to Wardlow after the hearing and says, you know, what do you think about this? And he says, if they're going to treat us like foreigners, we might as well go ahead and secede and become foreigners. Heads back to Key West. They hold an emergency meeting of the city council. They unanimously vote to secede from the United States of America. Wardlow and a bunch of his buddies go up to where the the blockade is, where they're searching cars. Got one of them dressed up in an old Navy, like the formal whites with the big collar and everything, dressed up in that suit. They go up there, they read their Declaration of Secession, they take a stale loaf of Cuban bread, they declare war on the United States of America, break the stale loaf of Cuban bread over the fake Navy sailor's head as a symbolic act of war, and then immediately surrender. And they demand war reparations in the amount of $1 billion. As far as I know, to this day, they have not received any of that money. However, due to the bad optics and all the press surrounding this, the federal government did take down the blockade, which was all they were after in the first place. So, as a result, to this day, the slogan of the Conch Republic is, "We seceded where others failed." But of course, that was not to be the last time the Conch Republic had various actions and clashes with the federal government and others. I don't have time to tell you all of them tonight, but I will flash forward. I'll tell you a couple of stories. In 1991, so the Conch Republic has an Air Force, a Navy, an Army. They do a lot of charity work and cleanups and stuff. I myself am a captain in the Space Force. I'm a captain. I earned the title of captain by saying, "Can I be a captain?" And it was very rigorous. But so there's this one day, this guy's out, one of the pilots in the Air Force, the Conch Republic Air Force, is out flying around in 1991 in his biplane, an old biplane, double wings, propeller, and all the whole bit. And he's flying around in his plane, and he sees this MiG, this really old MiG, flying in his direction. He's in international waters, but it's getting pretty close. And he realizes, he's trying to communicate with the guy, and the guy's coming back speaking Spanish. And he realizes it's got Cuban flags on it. And he speaks a little bit of Spanish. The other guy, he speaks a little bit of English. So they're having like this Spanglish conversation back and forth over the radio. And basically what he finds out, after trying to warn the guy off that he's getting too close to American airspace, the guy informs him that he's trying to defect the United States. So the Conch Republic pilot, he tells him to follow me, turns, and so now you've got this biplane and this really old MiG flying up towards Boca Chica, where there's a U.S. Air Force base. And he guides him in, and when the U.S. Air Force pilots start coming at him, the Conch Republic pilot informs them over there what's going on. He's acting as a go-between, and they bring the pilot in and land it. And of course, the Conch Republic was like, "Hey, that's our plane. We brought the defector in." The federal government did not agree, but so far now the tally is $1 billion and one very old MiG that are owed the Conch Republic. Now, a few years later, 1995, again, the federal government initiates these activities. They decide, every so often the military, they need to do military exercises. You got to practice, otherwise give the clarinet to a kid who's going to use it, right? So they're doing military exercises, and they decide they need to practice invading an island nation. And they're going to use Key West as the fake island nation to practice invading. Coast Guard and Navy guys are going to be involved in this. Unfortunately, they forgot to tell the people of the Conch Republic, of Key West, that they were going to be doing this. Of course, it's a small island and people work on the base. The word starts getting around informally that this is coming up. So the members of the Conch Republic Navy, which consists of, canoes and dinghies and sailboats and little fishing charter boats, they get out there and they challenge the Coast Guard while they're in the middle of maneuvers. And they go out there, they've got water balloons, and they've got stale bread, and they've got conch fritters, and they start firing them at the Coast Guard, engaging in this battle with them. And the Coast Guard, of course, they put out fires all the time at sea, so they've got these powerful water hoses, which they turn on the Conch Republic Navy, and this massive water battle begins in the middle of the ocean off the shore of Key West. Goes on for a couple hours before the Conch Republic runs out of munitions and has to retreat. The next day, the Coast Guard issues a formal apology to the city of Key West, to the Conch Republic, for violating their sovereignty, and formally surrenders to the Conch Republic Navy. And now every year they reenact that battle. They have the whole sea battle go. A couple of years ago when I was there, somebody flew that biplane over the city and dropped toilet paper down onto the city during the battle. It was quite it was quite festive. And then after the battle's over, the Navy or the Coast Guard formally surrenders again, and they all go to the bar and get drunk together. It's a good time, as if you needed an excuse in Key West. They always come up with a good one. And they keep doing that battle every year, and right now they're celebrating all of that. The Battle of Key West, or the Battle of the Conch Republic, excuse me. Apologize. How am I doing for time? Probably running pretty close to the end. Yeah. All right, so I'll wrap it up. 5 minutes. Okay, I'll just wrap. So when we come back, I have a ghost story. We got more stories for you. We're gonna take a little musical break. Of course, you can always. I'm JD Adler, jdadler.com. If you're interested in my stories. Walt's got some books for sale. I'm sure you have some more stories to tell, and we all tour around. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you in a little bit.